You're listening to The Murder in My Family, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including Missing Persons, DNA ID, Scene of the Crime, Zodiac Speaking,
Beyond Bizarre True Crime,
Citizen Detective,
and Campus Killings.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its host, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss the murder in your family on this podcast, please be sure to visit themurderinmyfamily.com for more information. You can support this podcast by visiting patreon.com/themurderinmyfamily. This episode may contain unsettling material or subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Murder in My Family. I'm your host, Mike Morford. In this episode, we'll be discussing the case of a young father in Florida who vanished just as he was supposed to start a new job. When fishermen found his body in a river several weeks later, the mystery of what happened to him only became more confusing, and police are still trying to figure out who shot him to death and why. We'll dive into this case after some quick housekeeping. Independent podcasts like this one depend on word of mouth to bring in new listeners. So if you find that you enjoy this show, please take a moment to rate and review it wherever you listen to your podcast. And be sure to introduce a friend to the show and invite them to listen. With your help, The Murder in My Family can continue to grow and reach a new audience. To learn more about the show or the cases we discuss, please visit themurderinmyfamily.com. You can also find us on Twitter with the handle @MurderMyFam or on Facebook at facebook.com/TMIMF podcast. If you'd like to support this show through a Patreon donation, it's always appreciated, and you can do so by visiting patreon.com/TheMurderMyFamily. Benefits of supporting the show on Patreon may include early access to ad-free episodes of the show, plus bonus content not heard in regular episodes. Support may also include thank you cards, stickers, and more. In each episode, I'll give shout-outs to any new supporters. And thank you to all of the supporters that generously donate to help keep the show growing and improving. One last note. Please support any of the sponsors that you hear on The Murder in My Family, the way that those sponsors support the show. It's with our sponsor support that this show can go on and continue to provide a platform to share these stories with you in every episode. Thank you. And now on with the show. Colby Allen Wilcher was born on January 16, 1995, to parents Alan and Christina. He has two brothers, one of which is Michael, our guest in this episode, and he's still fighting for justice and answers in Colby's case. Colby was originally from Alabama, but moved to Florida, and at the time he died was living in Holt, Florida. Colby loved the outdoors and tinkering with cars. He was about to start a new job, and he had a new baby on the way. He had 3 children, and his 4th child was born after Colby's mysterious and tragic death. The mystery of what happened to Colby began in January 2022. That month, Colby was due to start his job, and the day before, Colby hung out with one of his brothers, before his brother dropped him off and they went their separate ways. After that, no one really knows what happened to Colby or where he went. Colby had been working another job, and on January 24th, he called into that job and told coworker Courtney Nelson that he tested positive for COVID-19 and was unsure when he would be able to come back in for his next shift. But when he didn't get back in contact, she was worried. They had worked together for 3 years and become pretty close friends. It just wasn't like him to disappear even if he was sick. Other friends agreed. Larry Dutcher, Colby's best friend of many years, said Colby's disappearance confused him. And he said Colby wouldn't just take off. He would have talked to someone. Colby's family officially reported him missing on January 26th. For almost 3 months, there were no signs of him. Then, on April 11th, 2022, just a few months after he was last seen, a badly decomposed body was found by fishermen in Florida's Shoal River, just south of Shoal River Bridge off Okaloosa County Road 393. The body had been caught in some tree limbs. The area was on the banks of the river near private property. For those not local, the area is about 50 miles northeast of Pensacola, Florida, in the panhandle of the state, and about 20 miles from where Colby lived in Holt. Investigators had to use a boat to reach the body for their investigation, because the area was basically inaccessible by land. Days later, the body was identified as 27-year-old Colby Wilcher. The discovery brought an end to the months-long search for his whereabouts and began a new search for his killer. Because Colby hadn't died in an accident, he hadn't drowned. He had been shot in the head one time. At first, there was the question whether this had been a self-inflicted gunshot, and maybe Colby's weapon had washed away. But further examination made it obvious to police that this was a murder. County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Michelle Nicholson, who spoke with NWSF News, said, quote, "It was obvious by the injury that it was a homicide." Alexis Grice, the mother of Colby's children, was devastated when she heard the news. She called it heart-wrenching and terrible. She told NWSF News, "I don't know how to tell my kids that he's gone." During the months he had been missing, the children had begged to see and talk to him. But trying not to worry them, she would make excuses as to where he was. She told them he was busy or at work and he'd come later. But he never did. And suddenly she had to tell him that he never would. Despite having been separated from Colby, Alexis remembers him as a good-hearted person who would do anything for anybody, adding that he loved his family more than anything. Colby's fiancée, Kyla Thompson, was also devastated. She told reporters that they had planned to wed in April. Instead, she was thinking about funeral planning. Colby's friend Larry remembers Colby as a fun and bright person, telling WAR-TV, "If I was down and out and feeling depressed, he would always try to cheer me up." Reading through the comments left on his online obituary, it seems many people remembered Colby in the same way. A GoFundMe was started to try and help support Colby's young children, but as of this date, just $45 has been raised. In June 2022, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office was asking the public for more tips, saying to WSF News, "We're still hopeful that there are people out there who will share information that we know they have." There seems to have been no movement on the case since that renewed plea for information. Investigators haven't released the name of any suspects publicly, nor have they revealed the caliber of the weapon that Colby was shot with. It's unknown exactly when or where Colby was killed, but it could have been any time after he spoke to his coworker on January 24th, claiming that he had COVID. It's unknown whether he was sick and stayed home, disappearing from his residence, or if he needed a reason to miss work and ended up disappearing from a different location. There was a post on his Facebook page on February 9th, so he could have been alive and avoiding the people he knew from January 24th until something happened to him. If he was killed before that Facebook post, then someone else had access to his login information. Alexis said of Colby's death to WAR-TV, "The only thing we want is closure and justice. He was a good person, he didn't deserve this." Going on to note that he wasn't the only innocent victim here. His kids didn't deserve to grow up without their biological father. Colby's family and friends have the answer to only one question: where's Colby? All the other questions they have remain. When was Colby killed? Why would someone kill him? Where was he killed? And most importantly, who did it? If you have any information about the murder of Colby Wilcher, please contact authorities with your tip. You can call the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office at 850-651-7400. Or if you prefer to remain anonymous, you can call the Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers at 850-863-TIPS. Or you can leave a tip online at emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com. I sat down with Colby's brother, Michael, to discuss this tragic and mysterious case. That conversation is coming up in just a moment. Hi, Michael, and welcome to the Murder of My Family. I want to thank you for coming on to discuss your brother Colby's case with us.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Happy to have you here, and I hope we can help get the word out there about your brother's case. The very sad and tragic case, and still unsolved as of this moment. Your brother's death obviously left a lot of grieving and friends and family behind, and he had young children. It's coming up on a year since Colby went missing and then later was found dead. How hard has this last year been on all of you, his family and his friends?
I mean, it's been crazy, honestly. You know, when we got the news, I lost it. I know there was quite a few months. I was homeless at the time and living out of a car. Pretty much almost lost my job because I couldn't focus on anything at all. I was just so far gone that I didn't care. I was doing me, and yeah, put myself in a little bit of a bind, got out of it, got my head back together. But I mean, his kids have taken it really hard. His little girl has been very upset about it, and she's asking all kinds of different questions now.
Yeah, and that's the tough part about these kinds of cases is that when someone dies like this, there's a ripple effect of people that you know are affected by it, and they're grieving and going through a hard time. So it's very, very tragic. Before we get into the details about what happened to your brother, can you tell us a little bit about Colby himself and what he was like? Maybe share some of your memories of him.
Colby, best way to explain Colby would be he could be an asshole when he wanted to be. But if he really cared about you, he was there. He knew the right things to say. You know, I can't count how many times I've been on the edge of wanting to kill myself, calling him, begging him, you know, telling him that I can't do it anymore. And he'd sit there and look at me and just be like, come on, Michael, you know better than this. You can't do this. It's not okay. He was definitely the person that, you know, he forgave you. He tried to always, you know, give people more than one chance to prove that, you know, they were good people. Very accepting of pretty much everybody around him. Very much a country boy. Loved being out in the woods and by the river. We spent many days just doing bonfires and having drinks and, you know, doing the normal stuff you do when you're bored, I guess.
It sounds like he kept busy and active and, you know, had some fun along the way. And it sounds like the two of you were pretty close.
Yes, we were. We used to talk every night on Facebook, pretty much. He never had the same number. He constantly changed his phone number. So eventually at some point we stopped exchanging our phone numbers and started talking on Facebook on a daily basis. And he would pretty much call me every night. We'd get on Call of Duty and shoot zombies all night and sit there and talk trash to each other and, you know, basically tell each other that, you know, we were better than the other one.
It's typical brothers rivals, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, his favorite person was the Joker, so he always tried to be funny. You know, he, purple and greens were his two favorite colors, stuff like that. It's really kind of hard just to pinpoint one thing about him. There was a lot.
Yeah. And we mentioned he had 3 children. Was he very active as a father? Was he?
Sorry, you cut
were
out.
the kids were his kids sort of the apple of his eye? Was he very excited? You know, spending time with his kids as well.
Oh yes, he was always excited about seeing his kids, and every chance he got to spend with them, he was there. He loved them kids. He always tried to do his best to make sure that they were okay. him and his little girl really were two peas in a pod. I don't want to mention her name because I really haven't talked to their mother about, talking about them that much. But him and his first little girl, he had two sets of twins, which are now 6, one boy, one girl. And then he has another little girl. And then he had another baby that was born after he went missing, that was put up for adoption. And, but his first two twins, he did as much as he could with them. He took them everywhere when he got them. He would spend every moment with them. And they were very close to him. The first time, I actually remember the first time he gave his daughter a bath, and she slipped and fell and hit her head on the tub, and got a real nice bump on her head. And my brother comes out running, screaming, swearing up and down he's killed his child, and he can never give his child a bath ever again because he's too scared that it's going to happen again. And we had to sit there and explain to him that this is okay, that she's okay, it happens, it's going to happen, and that, he has to calm down and not make too big of the situation.
Yeah. It sounds like a young father being worried, for their babies, just getting used to being a dad and the things like that you worry about. But sounds like he really, took the time to spend a lot of time with them and stuff.
Yeah, he did.
Let's go back to what was going on in Colby's life right before this happened. Where was he living and where was he working, that kind of stuff? Can you just sort of go through what was going on in his timeline as far as his life at that point?
He was living currently in Baker. He was dating. He did have he had just started a relationship with this girl named Michaela. He had just actually moved out to Baker. He'd probably been out there for like 2 months. He got the house that he finally wanted. That was a friend of his had. He was working at Tropical Smoothie, but he left. He had left there to go to Stubby's. Right before he went missing.
And was there anything sort of out of character, anything going on, any kind of trouble in his life at that point right before he went missing?
Not that I can really remember. I know him and his second baby mama were on the outs at the current moment. She was wanting to put the baby up on it for adoption. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to take care of the child himself. He had missed a lot of his first threes growing up, and he wanted to fix that with this child and be able to actually be there the whole time and raise the kid himself. But that was it. That was the only thing that was really going on at the time.
Okay. Let's go back to when this whole ordeal started, because I think the timeline here is important. I read that Colby was reported missing in January 2022, on January 26th, but he supposedly also made a Facebook post on February 9th, about 2 weeks later. Can you sort of clarify that timeline of when he went missing versus when he was last heard from, whether it was on Facebook or, talking to someone?
At the time when he originally went missing, there was contact between me and him, but there was some very angry and hurtful things said to me that didn't sound like him. after he was reported missing, there were the posts on Facebook. There were multiple, but they were posts that none of us really believed were him because they were so far-fetched. These were things he didn't do. He didn't go on, if he was mad at somebody, he would talk to that person. He wouldn't go on Facebook and start blasting stuff out like he was, or, doing what he was. I don't know if I said that right. The posts were not him. And we think either somebody else may have had his phone. We're not sure at this point in time.
Okay.
What's going on with that?
So there were posts made on his social media, but doesn't mean it was necessarily him that did the post.
Yes, because a lot of the messages that many of us were receiving after he went missing, they don't add up. And it doesn't make sense. It's not his MO to act like this.
Okay. And so walk us through the day or the time when Colby went missing. How did someone realize that he was gone, and how did that unfold?
Last I heard, he was with his brother Stephen, our other brother Stephen. They had went to go celebrate his birthday. His fiance at the time messaged me and asked me if I had heard from Colby around 8, 9 o'clock that night. I was going to work. I didn't get a chance to really reply back to her. Next morning when I got home, she called me and asked me if I had heard from him, because he did not come home last night, and she hasn't heard from him at all since, shortly after he had left, which was unlike him. He was very much, he would let people know, especially if he knew, we were worried about him, he would let us know where he was. So I tried to get a hold of him. I got a message back saying, after trying to call him on Facebook, I got a message back saying, "Hey, sorry, long night. I'm on my way home." And I messaged his fiance and told her that he was going to be on his way home shortly, to contact me and let me. I got to get to sleep because I worked overnight. I was like, just contact me and let me know if you hear from him. I think I woke up about 5 o'clock that day. This was 2 days before he was actually reported missing. I woke up about 5, and she said he had not responded back to her at all. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird. So I started sending him messages, started trying to call him. He eventually messaged me back, and it was really kind of cryptic and weird. But he made it sound like he wasn't going to be able to make it home that night, so I kind of just left it alone. I was a little worried. It felt strange. It didn't feel right. But I was like, you know what? Maybe something happened. He doesn't really want to talk about it right now, and he'll get back with me and let me know what's going on later. He had to start a new job the next day on the 26th. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting my dates mixed up now. He was supposed to start a new job. He was supposed to start his new job at Stuvie's that day, and he didn't show up. And that was when I knew something was wrong, because he didn't just not show up to a job. Especially on his first day, he was always very adamant about being there.
So you knew right away it wasn't his normal MO to just not show up for a new job.
Yeah. Not when he had just gotten everything he had wanted. He just got the house that he had been waiting for, because he was going to be able to fix it up and do what he wanted with it. And, he this was not, he had just gotten his kids back. Where are you? Like, this is not you.
And so, he's reported missing. How soon after that did you say, okay, it's, this isn't like him, something's going on?
As soon as his fiance called me and said he did not show up for his job was when I I told her to come to my house, and I was calling the police. I wasn't waiting anymore. I couldn't justify waiting anymore. Like, the first night was one thing. The second night, going again when this is just feeling so off, I have this gut feeling like something is wrong. So that was when I made the decision to call the cops, and I told them that I just wanted a wellness check on him. I didn't know where he was. This was not how he normally acted. The cops took our information and then left. And I was in when he started doing the post on Facebook, posting sending us a whole bunch of messages. We were in constant contact with the cops at the time, telling them, look, we don't know what's going on. These messages are really off. This does not sound like him. Something is wrong.
So when he's missing, originally the police, they take a report. Did you, your family, your friends, did everybody just start calling around asking, hey, has anybody seen Colby?
I had, the night before I even called the police, I had been doing that. I had been in contact with quite a few people that night, asking them if they had seen him or heard from him or talked to him or could get a hold of him. And nobody at the time he went missing was able to ever get him on the phone. We know of one point there was supposedly a phone call between him and one other person, but it was only like for a second. Like, it wasn't very long, and they couldn't hear him. They weren't sure if it was him or not. Like, we have no idea. The day he went, from the moment he left, my other brother left him in Shalimar was the last time anybody ever saw him.
And just to clarify, where was he last seen at? Did he have a car with him? Was he alone when he was last seen? What was the situation there?
He did not have a car. He had rode out there. He was riding with our brother Steven. He said, my brother Steven said he got a phone call while he was with him, told him that, came back very agitated and angry, and told him he needed to go deal with something. So my brother agreed to drop him off in Shalimar. Unfortunately, my brother cannot remember exactly where he dropped him off in Shalimar. He thought he was coming to my house because I did live in Shalimar at the time. But from the moment he got dropped off in Shalimar, and I'm not sure where he got dropped off in Shalimar at, supposedly he got in another car with somebody else. And that was the last I got told. Nobody has been able to pinpoint him after that day.
Is there any information about what kind of car that might be? Any details as far as that?
No, we don't have any of that information because honestly, when my brother got mad, me and my brother Steven both knew him. We understood that if he was mad enough, you didn't push his buttons. You didn't try and get it out of him. You let him, you let him do what he needs to do, and he'll come back to us later and let us know what was going on, kind of thing. So, he figured he was doing the right thing, just dropping him off and letting him deal with what he needed to deal with.
So there were no sightings of your brother after that point.
Yep.
And so, he obviously, you knew right away something wasn't right. This, wasn't like your brother just vanished like that for stretches of the time. days turn into weeks of him being missing. And then on April 11th, fishermen in the Shoal River, fishing near the Shoal River Bridge, and this is near County Road 393, they found your brother's body. How quickly was he identified, and how devastating was it to get that news that your brother was dead?
I actually still kind of remember those days. I remember on the 12th, I got a phone call and told I might be off on the date, so I'm sorry. It might be the 11th. I got a phone call from his aunt. I had gotten two phone calls from the cops asking me if we had heard from him or seen him. I said no. They asked me for dental records, if there were dental records or anything else that that they could use to identify him. And I told him that he had multiple tattoos. And I don't know if he had dental records. I would have to get in touch with somebody else to find out. I didn't think nothing of it because at this point it had been 2 months. Of course they would start asking for stuff like this. I know the statistics and everything else. Shortly after I'd gotten off the phone with the cop, I got a phone call from his aunt, and she told me that they had found the body in Shoal River. They believed it was him. I kind of blacked out for about a good hour. I couldn't believe it was him. I didn't want to believe it was him. I remember I called my job and I told them that a body had been found in Shoal River and it could have possibly been him, and I couldn't go into work because I was so anxious and worried. I remember I couldn't sleep. I was trying everything in my power. Like, I remember I was drinking because I just wanted to go to sleep. That was all I wanted to do. I woke up the next day and I got a phone call from his aunt shortly after I woke up. And I think it was the 13th. And they had said they had confirmed multiple tattoos of his. Nobody was allowed to see the body because of how decomposed it was. But they had confirmed it was him and that we were given a 24-hour, we had 24 hours before they had notified the press.
It's an awful situation. You've got to get that news and process it. But then how quickly did you find out that not only was he dead, but that he was shot?
That came, I actually had a whole conversation with the current investigator on his case that day. She came to ask me all kinds of questions about it and everything, the whole situation, because I had been there, had reported him missing and everything else. And that's when I got told that, no, actually, wait. I got told before that. I was told before that it was a shot to the head because his aunt called me and told me.
Now, was that news devastating to find out that, not only had he died, but someone had shot him? Was it surprising? Did you think that could ever happen?
No, never in a million years. At the time when he went missing, I kind of dropped when I was getting the messages. I just kind of let my phone go and was like, he'll contact me when he's ready. Maybe he is trying to do something better. It's like, I don't know what he's doing, but maybe I just need to give him time and let him do what he needs to do. I never thought in a million years that phone call, I never thought I'd receive that phone call. I'm sorry, I need a minute.
Yeah, take your time. Let me know when you're ready and we'll pick back up.
I remember the one thing when you have anxiety, overthinking is a thing, big time. And in this situation, when I got told that he had been shot, I literally was just circling around the idea of who could do this to him. Why would somebody do this to him? If you knew him, there was no way you could do this. Yeah, he would make you mad, but he always made up for it. He always tried his hardest to make things right when he knew he messed up. And to hear that somebody else was responsible for this ordeal and all this pain just made everything worse. My anger, my anxiety, my overthinking, I can remember like 2 or 3 days afterwards, that's all I thought about. I couldn't get it off my mind. I'd circle around, I'd just stay on it. And it was definitely the hardest thing for me to let go of.
So you had a hard time processing this. Obviously, it's a horrible news. But you mentioned also that you thought a little bit about who would do such a thing. I assume the police talked to you and talked to other family members, other friends, and trying to get a sense of who might have done this and why. Were there any theories or any suspicions about why this happened or who might have done it?
Unfortunately, as of right now, nobody can really point fingers at anybody at the moment. Like, we have very little to go on. We don't know who he could have been with, we don't even know who could have done this. Like, we're honestly at a standstill on where could this have come from? I mean, I don't remember really having enemies. I know there's a couple people that had beef with him every now and then, but he stayed away from them, and it wasn't really something to kill him over. And so it comes down to, like, I mean, literally, he vanished with somebody, and we have no idea who this person was. And why would he need to go with them?
And I'm curious too about the area that he was found in that stretch of water near that bridge. How far was that from where your brother dropped him off, or where he thought he dropped him off? Was it close by, or was it a pretty good distance away?
Oh, where my brother dropped him off at compared to where his body was found?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, he was dropped off all the way in Shalimar. He was found on Soul River, which is more closer to Crestview. And that's about a good, 30 to 45 minutes away, maybe an hour even.
Okay. So it seems that somehow that he, perhaps was on his way home and then this happened to him closer to home, or somebody dropped him closer to home.
I don't know if he was on his way home and somebody got him on his way home. It is kind of, he did love Shoal River, and he used to know some camping spots out there. So, part of us wondered what if maybe he was trying to protect all of us and he went into hiding thinking somebody was after him. It's been a theory that's been thrown around, but nobody can really prove anything on it. We don't know if there was a campsite or not or anything like that. The cops, most of it is still an active investigation, and the cops aren't really being too revealing of information right now, which is understandable in a way.
But probably frustrating as well.
Very. Because, I don't know, I want answers. I want to know what my brother's life was worth to somebody else. How did they justify this? Because I'm a type of person, I don't want to think anybody is truly evil. I want to think we're all good. You know, we just sometimes, you know, situations in our lives can change perspectives and make you do things that you didn't think you would ever do. And killing someone, in my perspective, is the worst thing you can do. And, you know, it's hard to justify it to me. I guess I'm saying, I don't know. I'm probably getting confused because my mind's a little rambling right now.
Well, yeah, and I get what you're saying, though, that you're searching for some kind of answers, and it's just shocking that someone would do this. And, you know, your probably mind is racing 1,000 different ways. Why would they do this? And what would cause them to do something so horrible like this? I did want to ask you one thing, and if you know the answer to this. Was there anything missing when your brother's body was found? Like his wallet, his phone, any of that stuff that may have been missing?
His phone is still unaccounted for, and his wallet is unaccounted for. He was found with, much, from my understanding, he was found with the clothes that he was wearing when he left.
Okay. So it may be a case that this happened on the day he was last seen because he was still wearing the same clothes.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the other thing too, is there's so much time in between when he went missing to when his body was found that we don't know what happened. The last anybody did hear from him was February 2nd.
Which was that Facebook post that we discussed, correct?
And it wasn't just the Facebook post. There was also, I know I received a message that day.
Okay.
Saying, I will see you soon. And that was the last I heard from him.
But you don't know for sure that was actually him, though? Yeah,
I don't know for sure if it was him. He never called me, and that was very suspicious because he knew how much I cared, and if I was calling him nonstop, he knew that he was still or send me a quick voice message saying something to me to let me. He knew my anxiety. He knew how bad my anxiety could get, and he knew how much I could worry about him. And the one thing that me and him had was, if I called him constantly worried about him, he would always at least answer the phone and let me know he was okay, or he would at least send me a voice message on Facebook stating, so where I could hear his voice and know that he was okay. During the time he went missing, I never received either of those. And I know multiple times I begged him to contact me and let me know he was okay. Stop sending me messages and answer the phone. That is what I need right now, and he never did. That was when I knew. That was when I started wondering if something was. That was more when I knew something was off.
So if your brother was indeed killed the last day he was seen, then whoever was sending out these messages and stuff, had his phone, could have been involved. Was there any attempt, as far as you know, by the police to track, like ping, where these messages were sent from, that kind of stuff?
That is currently under investigation. I don't know if they've actually got anything with it, but they did say that they were trying.
Okay, so that might be one of the best leads, one of the clues that they might be able to work with if they can figure out where that phone was used and to send those messages. Maybe they can figure out who was sending them. Um, so here we are a year after the fact, basically. Um, where does the case stand overall today? And is there anything that hasn't been done that you'd like to see be done at this point?
I mean, the case is still standing unsolved at the moment. It's an active investigation they have told us it's not a cold case yet. I wish I wasn't the only one having to go around posting flyers and, posting things on Facebook. I really wish there was more, it's hard to explain how frustrated I am, but at the same time, I understand, like, you can't tell me everything because I could screw up. And that's the one thing I don't want, is I don't want to mess this case up. But at the same time, I wish there was more to go off of than what I have to go off of, because it's not really helping.
Yeah. Well, it's frustrating because, absolutely, because on one hand you want answers and you want to know what happened and what the police are doing. On the other hand, they can't really tell you everything because that could jeopardize a case, or an arrest in whoever did this.
I mean, I can honestly say if this person's life was put in my hands, I don't know what I'd do, because it's something that, a situation I don't think I'd want to put myself in. Yeah. Preferably, I'd rather leave this to the law and let them handle it.
Well, and
but at the same time,
I'm sorry, finish your thought.
Well, I kind of lost it too.
I'm sorry. But what I was going to ask you is, you mentioned you wouldn't want to be responsible. You want the police to handle this, but at the same time, if someone out there listening is the person that did this and they can hear your voice, what would you want to say to them?
Just come forward and be honest. Own it. Don't sit here and try and hide from us, because, I mean, it's just come forward and tell us what happened. Make sense of this to us. If you're so justified in what you did, make sense to it to everybody else. Because what you did was something that words cannot explain, what you've done to this family, how much you've torn it apart. And it hurts that you get to stand out there and enjoy your life while my brother's life is over and you have destroyed pretty much almost everybody that he knew. Well, that's pretty much what I'd have to say.
Well, hopefully that person grows a conscience and, comes forward. But, assuming that doesn't happen, it's important to get any kind of tips and leads that we can get out there. So if anyone listening has information about this case or heard a rumor or has any little bit of information, I think they should reach out to the police, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, and that's they can be reached at 850-651-7400. Hopefully, if anyone out there has any information, however small, they'll do the right thing and call in a tip.
I mean, to anybody out there that may have known anything that did happen, if you're protecting somebody that killed another person, they're not worth protecting, because they can turn on you at any moment.
That's a very good point. Well, I hope that you do get some kind of answers. And as we wrap up here, I want to find out, when people talk about Colby or look back and mention him or think about him, what do you want people to remember most about your brother?
His smile, his stupid little grin when, he was trying to be funny. It didn't come out the way he thought it was going to. He would just stand there with the stupid little grin, look at you like, come on, just laugh at it, please. I mean, just the Joker side of him, the whole, how strong he was and how much joy he could bring into our lives. That's what I want him to remember as.
Well, it seems from everything you've said and just the tone of your voice that you're still taking this very hard and you miss your brother. And again, I hope that you and your family and Colby's friends and everyone gets the answers and gets justice here and you find out who did this and why. And that way, your brother, his death doesn't go unsolved, because that can be agonizing as well, waiting for answers. So I hope that you do get the answers that you're waiting for.
I hope you get them too, because at this point, I would love to be able to close this chapter of my life, this whole murder case and everything else, and be able to see the rest of this family heal the way they need to, because it has been really, the family has taken it very hard. And it has drawn lines in between people, and it's getting ridiculous, in my opinion. But until we get those answers, these problems will not be fixed.
Yeah, and hopefully you get those answers so you can get that healing, and as you mentioned, sort of move on to the next chapter of what happens after this. But again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing Colby's story with us. And again, I hope you do find out what happened and who's responsible.
I hope so too. And thank you for sharing his story. I really do appreciate it. It's been hard trying to get his story out there.
Yeah, we'll do our best to help you get it out there. So, keep up the fight. Thank you once again for joining me for this episode of The Murder of My Family. I'd like to thank Sonny Landon for writing and research assistance in this episode. We'll be back here soon with an all-new episode of The Murder of My Family, and I hope you'll join me for it. But before you go, remember that every murder victim means something to somebody.